Uh-huh. Mhm. This, in the law of contracts, is a permission accorded by a competent authority? Yes. Conferring the right to do some act without which such authorization would be illegal. Mhm. Now, this idea of dissolving ex parte dissolutions of marriage without proof of service? Yes. Without any additional response from myself? And then thinking, well, if he has a problem, he can just contact the petitioner? I can't. I'd be arrested for harassment. Well, there's some very specific requirements when it's ex parte. When the individual represents themselves in a dissolution of marriage, yes, and represents themselves in protection orders, yeah. You do have to make sure that there's proof of service, because I could talk to an attorney if she had an attorney. Um, Ex parte, yes. Exactly who was it that motioned the court for the? Well, you took it upon yourself. The exceptions to the rule, executive director, ex parte. Well, that means the person's representing themselves. You don't have to give notice to the other side, right? Expunge, expromisal. Well, you know, I can't motion the court without a dissolution of marriage. I can go in there and pay for copies of it, but the problem is I can't respond to it. As a respondent, I can only respond. I cannot initiate any communications with the petitioner. It's harassment. Um, if Well, you are obligated to have proof of service of the actual dissolution of marriage. Ex officio, done or made at the instance and for the benefit of one party only and without notice to. Temporary protection orders, yeah. Or argument by anyone having any adverse interest, yeah. You issued an ex parte dissolution of marriage without myself receiving any of the documentation that would have allowed me to respond. Now, relating to or involving a court action taken or received by one party without notice to the other, usually for a temporary or emergency relief and ex parte hearing, an ex parte injunction. Despite the traditional one-sidedness of ex parte matters, some courts now require notice to the opposition before what they call an ex parte hearing, sometimes ex parte. One or from one party only, usually without notice to or argument from the adverse party. This argument from the adverse party, yes. Known as the respondent, yes. What if the respondent responds without any actual documentation? Violating the restraint provisions of the protection order. I am cyber stalking? Yes. I am communicating? Yes. The restraint provisions, they do not allow for any communications from myself as the adverse party in a dissolution of marriage without responding to any of the documentation that I receive. Oh. If you don't make sure that she gives me the documentation, I cannot respond. Now, that's not the only part, but you did an ex parte dissolution of marriage without myself receiving the required notices from the opposition before having court hearings, yes, before issuing the dissolution of marriage, and without protecting my right to appeal the decisions of the court because you didn't give me a dissolution of marriage. Did you say I owe child support? Is that what you're going to get me for now? Well, I'm sure that there's some sort of, let's see here. Well, mm, to insist, yes. To reaffirm an amendment that the other house is considered but is not concurred. Yes. Or reaffirm non-concurrence in an amendment from which the other house has not receded. Yeah. And insistence often results in a request for a conference. Yeah. Now, there's probably another meaning to insist, as in, I, as a petitioner, insist upon me having all the necessary documentation before there are court hearings so that I can respond to what the petitioner petitions. Oh, now it seems like I'm somewhat demanding as a respondent, doesn't it? Yes. I'm insisting that you do what the law says. Oh. Now, there's insolvency. Yes. The condition of being unable to pay debts as they fall due are the usual course of business. Yeah. Oftentimes it involves bankruptcy. Oh, and then there's the notorious insolvency. Sounds very bad, doesn't it? Yeah. And then there's insolvency law. Of the bankruptcies that my wife went through, yes, because she bankrupted herself after the divorce she had with Tim Hodges. Was that done according to the law, or was that something that was arranged? Yeah. See, when you decide to marry a woman, yes, that just went through a dissolution of marriage the year before, and she had just filed for bankruptcy right before we got married. Of all the assets and all the income and everything that we had as community property, how much of it was mine and how much of it was hers? Yes. Since her credit never contributed to any of the unsecured debt that we had. Yes. And her credit was not used to purchase the house at 2204 West McLaughlin Street. Yes. And since her credit was never used for any of the actual credit that we had as a family. Yes. I would say her insolvency meant that when you decide to stick to me all the unsecured debt, I would say that my credit was used to support our family, and she used my credit to enrich herself at my expense. Oh. Now it's a little different. See, I had a credit score of 750. I bought the house at 323 West First Street. Yep. I bought the house in Vancouver. Yes. And I'm the one that went through foreclosure because her name was not on the house because she had no credit when we got married. Oh. Now, you said that I made all the decisions when we were married. Is that right? Yes. But I made the decision to marry a woman that had no credit at all because she just filed for bankruptcy. Can you get me the bankruptcy documentation of Heidi Lee Budnick before we got married? Yes. She filed for bankruptcy approximately 8 months before marriage. Now, let's see here. What did my wife bring to the marriage? She brought herself, yes, her daughter Jessica, right, and no credit. Poop. Now, you said that I was not supportive of the family? Yes. That I didn't let her have any credit, I didn't let her have any money, yes, and that I was a very controlling, abusive husband. I gotta talk to you. Well, I wasn't. I let her have my credit. Yes. I gave her the credit that I had when we got married. Right. All the credit cards in her name that she would have been unable to get on her own. That's right. All the time she spent the money that she spent because we did talk about how to spend money, didn't we? Now, for every man that's ever married a woman that just filed for bankruptcy right before marriage so as to get rid of all the debt from the previous marriage.